Hey all, and welcome to Shadow of Space, and today we are commenting on another BCP video. This is called Virginia's Supreme Court delivers devastating blow to Democrats after striking down gerrymandered maps. This is uploaded May 8th. This is being recorded May 9th, and link is in the description.
Maximum warfare everywhere, all the time, in connection with the redistricting battle that Republicans launched.
Tell me right now that DHS funding and body cams for ICE officers isn't maximum warfare everywhere all the time. Like, most things in this country are maximum warfare everywhere all the time at this point. Think ICE, think people who oppose the Iran conflict, people who oppose the Republicans because they think that they're Nazis. Like, no.
I stand by it. You can continue to criticize me for it. I don't give a damn about your criticism.
A few moments later.
Got some more breaking news. This just handed down moments ago from the Virginia State Supreme Court ruling the process to redraw that state's congressional maps is unconstitutional. They had a referendum on this statewide. Shannon Bream is here to join Instant Reaction. Shannon, welcome to our coverage. Good day to you. A couple of things here just come to mind. Barack Obama was out there campaigning to make sure people were into this issue and would get out. It passed, but not by a lot, but it did pass. And it would have effectively, Democrats believe, made it 10 to 1.
Yeah, I think 2%.
Democrats to Republicans. I think the current figuration is 6-5.
Right.
So this is thrown out. Is that the end of the line?
I mean, it sounds like it, because this was an issue of the Virginia Constitution. It was a state law issue, and critics of this referendum have said from the beginning that Democrats were on thin ice because they did not follow procedures as outlined by state law and state constitution. And what the court ended up saying here is that violation irreparably undermined the integrity of the entire voting referendum, said it makes it null and void. And for that reason, they say the congressional district maps issued by the court in 2021, the old maps are the ones that they've got to use for the upcoming congressional election. Now, this was a state matter. Virginia's Supreme Court, the highest court in that state, it's a Commonwealth, they'll remind you, made this decision. Now, it's not out of the realm of possibility that challengers to this decision would try to find some federal hook for it, to try to get to the Supreme Court to say that there is some U.S. constitutional violation in the way that this ruling was made. It's a very tough ask, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try to do it, because what have you got to lose at this point?
Boy. So we got to talk about what yet again is another major defeat for Democrats. You love to see it, as the Virginia Supreme Court has now officially struck down the new gerrymandered maps from Democrats, where they basically drew out representation from rural conservative voters in Virginia, okay, in order to give themselves a 10-1 advantage in the state over Republicans. So they went from 6 Democrat seats, 5 Republican seats, to 10 Democrat seats, 1 Republican seat, and they call that democracy, right? That is what Democrats did, and the Supreme Court of Virginia said, nah, this is unconstitutional.
I mean, no, the real problem is that they think that gerrymandering at all is democratic, when it really isn't.
You didn't do this right. You're going to have to use
Districting
your old
is.
maps going into the midterms, okay? And I want to talk about it because the math ain't mathing, but Democrats at
There are
this
probably
point,
better ways it could be done, especially now.
Efforts has officially backfired, right? I'm talking about big time. And this is why you have liberals currently online losing their minds over this decision from the Virginia Supreme Court. Take a look.
We know this is wrong. We know it. We know that Virginia went to their citizens and asked them to cast their vote to see if they wanted to redistrict to get more seats for Democrats in the House. And Virginians answered.
I feel like there was another state that was trying to redistrict. And that was also something that they had to do, was they had to get it certified. Somewhere.
Said yes. Republicans got mad and said, no, we don't want to have that. They went to the courts. The courts blocked it. Now they're all the way at the Supreme Court. And baby, they have ruled that this is unconstitutional. When we've clearly seen this happen in Republican-led states, and it was practically fine. Texas did it. It was okay. Louisiana did it. It is okay. Other states are now doing it, and it's deemed okay. Now Virginia has lost 4 seats that they could have gained in the House. Now, you know, racists and KKK members and Jim Crow lovers all used to say that the South will rise again. Is this what they meant? This is not about elections. This is about white people in the South making sure that black people have no voice. It is about white people in the South still feeling like black people should be second-class citizens. It is about white people who watched their grandfathers and their fathers celebrating the downfall of black people, telling black people where they could sit, where they could drink, where they could go to school, where they couldn't cross the street at. And now those white folks want their turn. I want y'all to remember something, that the people right now making these votes and making these choices in the South, most of them grew up.
See, but I don't agree with most of that. When you have such hatred and animosity towards white people, you don't want them around. So yes, you do want all those things. You do want your own drinking fountains. You do want your own spaces. You can't sit here and tell me about, like, black excellence and then say, but we want to share spaces with people who think that they're superior to us.
In the Jim Crow era. And the reason they were so excited for Wigzora is because this is the era he wanted to go back to. Before black people had civil rights. Before we could vote. Before, in the eyes of this government, we mattered. We should have took them all out during Civil War. Then we have to worry about the good old boys.
It's so frustrating.
Ooh, the white Union soldiers that were fighting on your behalf? I don't understand.
Like, even just personally, I worked really hard on that campaign. I left because I am, you know. So the Virginia Supreme Court has struck down our new maps. Our new maps that we just voted on a few weeks ago were 10-1, like 10 blue districts to 1 red district. Our existing maps are 6-5. So we were trying to pick up about 4 seats. This is very annoying.
Well, we have some more bullshit to deal with today. Shortly after that Trump-humping
Tell me
judge
about
put a
it.
block on the Virginia redistricting that was approved by the voters, I personally said the Virginia Supreme Court was going to uphold the referendum, because not only did it make sense based on precedent, but I also consulted with several other constitutional lawyers on this. And they all said, hands down, they weren't worried about it. They thought Virginia was going to uphold it. But of course, we've got some bullshit to wade through. Despite the redistricting done in Virginia being approved by the voters, the Virginia Supreme Court struck it down based on them saying that the Democrats did not follow proper procedure. Meanwhile, all of these other Republican states are apparently allowed to gerrymander without even allowing people to vote on it. And that's totally
Well, the laws say that they can do it, so yeah, they're allowed to.
Yeah. So you see that, you heard that. There's a whole lot of cope from liberals over
If
this,
we
right?
wanted to, and we truly thought that that it was bad that Republicans drew their district maps that completely got rid of most Democrat representation, you know, if we truly thought that that was bad, then, you know, we'd get rid of it. But we don't want to do that because it makes it so that we can draw districts unfairly as well. It's why they can't get rid of the filibuster, because it's a double-edged sword.
They're trying to tell themselves that, well, see, we didn't really need gerrymandering. That gerrymandering was done as a...
Except you did, because all the districts that are being gotten rid of are all gerrymandered districts that you drew based off of race.
response to Republicans, and we're going to perform well on our old maps anyways. Well, if that's
You
the case, right?
you
feel
literally
like Democrats-
took portions of the black community, regardless of their political affiliation, and they said, you have to have Democrat representation.
It's going to perform well with the old maps. Then why did you gerrymander? Right? I'm just saying, why did you do it in the first place if you felt like you could win before? You only did it because you felt like you were going to lose. So the reality is that Democrats did this out of desperation. It is now backfiring, and we're going to get into it because red states now are emboldened to redistrict their states, and you have another red state that is looking to redistrict, a different one than the ones we've already talked about, Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, right? We have more red states, Florida as well too. We have more red states who are looking to redistrict. So without further ado, let's get into BS now, cope and seethe over this.
We have major breaking news on the redistricting fight between Republicans and Democrats nationwide. The Virginia Supreme Court just struck down the new Democrat-friendly redistricting plan that voters just approved at the ballot box a few weeks ago. Let's bring in MS Now's legal affairs reporter, Fallon Gallagher, and this ruling just came out. I know you're still reading in. Fallon, what are you learning?
Yeah, this is there were a few cases pending before the Virginia Supreme Court, and this is the first one that happened to reach it. So
I guess my question is, does the Virginia, is what that one woman said true, where this was a lower court case that got ruled, was appealed, and it's now made its way to the Supreme Court? Or does the Supreme Court have to certify the maps? And they looked at the maps, or they looked at the process by which the maps were drawn, and they said, this isn't right, you need to go back and do this. I guess I don't
So the Virginia State Supreme Court has struck down the new congressional map that was approved by voters on the basis that the special session, the special legislative session that was called to create this map was a violation of the state's constitution. And I want to read from a key graph in this ruling. It says, on March 6th, 2026, the General Assembly of Virginia submitted to Virginia voters a proposed constitutional amendment that authorizes partisan gerrymandering of congressional districts in the Commonwealth. We hold that the legislative process employed to advance this proposal violated Article 7, Section 1 of the Constitution of Virginia. This constitutional violation incurably taints the resulting referendum vote and nullifies its legal efficacy. Now, of course, they are taking issue here with the way that this legislative session was called. I need to double check, but I believe it was because state legislators called that session and they don't actually have the authority to do so. But this is basically, they're overturning the map on the basis of which it was created, not based on any sort of way the lines were drawn, but on the procedural grounds in which...
They aren't even doing it to go against the will of the people. They aren't doing it to go against the vote, which is what they're saying the rationale is, but it's actually wrong. They're doing it because it wasn't done correctly, which has been the point the whole time.
So could the legislature try again? What's next?
This is a final ruling because it is from the state Supreme Court. They might be able to try a different way if they call the legislative session in a different way and try redistricting again. But it appears at this point, as again, we are still reading this decision, that this map will not be in play for 2026.
And that being said, what does that mean for the voters and what maps they're actually using?
If this new map is blocked, theoretically, they will be using the maps that have been on the books before this. So the map that they would have used in 2024 should be the map that will hold now for the midterm elections this year.
And so politically, this is bad news for Democrats, good news for Republicans. Fallon, I'll let you get back to reading in so you can bring us more details as you get them.
Not really, considering that Republicans easily could have proposed their own map, put it to a vote, potentially won, and
thank you.
Hilarious.
Had it flipped the other way.
This host right
I would
here
say that this is probably
not like
the best outcome.
Delivering this news to the audience, right? She certainly
she did not have a happy face while she was saying
check,
it.
which is that Democrats are not going to get the seats they thought they were going to get. But again, this is officially backfired because now you have red states who are emboldened to redistrict. Again, we've already talked about Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana. You have Tennessee, okay, etc. Now we have South Carolina, right? South Carolina is getting in on the game.
Breaking news out of the State House tonight. Lawmakers approving a resolution that leaves the door open for the General Assembly to redraw South Carolina's voting maps after the legislative session ends next week. The move comes after an 87-25 vote by House lawmakers this evening. Now, the push for redistricting comes after a recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling tied to a case in Louisiana that determined the state's congressional maps are unconstitutional. Now, here in South Carolina, the district in question would likely be the 6th congressional district, according to many at the state.
I guess.
That has been held for years by Congressman Jim Clyburn. It is the state's only congressional district held by a Democrat.
Yeah, and it's time for him to go. He's been in Congress for way too long. He's up there in age. It's time for him to go, right? It's time for him to go. Get rid of him.
Jordan was following the debate in the House all day, right up until that vote. She's live in the studio now. What is the latest here, Kiana?
Well, Brian, the House voted to approve an amendment to this year's Sine Die resolution that would allow congressional redistricting to be taken up after the legislative session ends next week. Now, next Thursday is the official last day of the session. The push across at least 4 states comes after a Supreme Court ruling that radically changes how congressional maps must be drawn under the Voting Rights Act. The Supreme Court ruled that drawing those maps along racial lines is not allowed. Critics of the move, most of them Democrats, argue this would hurt candidates who have already filed to run and have been campaigning, with 1 month until the June primary. Democrats also say Republican leaders are caving in due to pressure from Washington, D.C. and President Trump. Supporters say the amendment that passed tonight simply gives lawmakers the option of taking up redistricting after the session officially ends.
This resolution that comes to us in the wake of a Supreme Court decision that came down just last week allows the General Assembly to come back, though it doesn't require, to come back and address those questions and make the determinations necessary to answer those questions as best it can.
Let us not follow the path of really and truly disenfranchising the voice of so many people.
I really don't know where I stand on maps being redrawn or not being redrawn. I've got to think.
Why? They should, as a natural result of changes to your population. You want the people to be represented, right? You want representation?
About that. But I do know that
what do your census numbers say? What has happened to your population? Do you need more representation or don't you? Do you know? Do you have anyone that actually looks at any of these information to determine what the best course of action is?
To outside pressure at the expense of us making...
See, but they could not. You say they're doing it as a result of outside pressure. I mean, they could have heard the Supreme Court ruling and just been like, huh, that's interesting. We don't have to draw these districts based on these rules anymore.
A common sense decision.
Again, if they weren't supposed to redistrict, then there wouldn't be laws about redistricting. So it must be a part of the process somehow, otherwise you wouldn't be allowed to do it.
Now, the reason this action even had to be taken is because Governor Henry McMaster said he would not call for a special session at the State House to address the redistricting issue. Just yesterday, we talked to the governor about the issue, and he again stood firm on that position about calling lawmakers back to the State House to effectively work overtime on this. However, he did point out that lawmakers should pay attention to the U.S. Supreme Court ruling and take action to make sure South Carolina is in good standing.
Anytime you have a new case coming out, it's always appropriate to read, study to see if it has an impact on what you've already been doing.
Tonight, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee has set a committee meeting for this Friday
I would hope
to take up the
that
redistricting
before anyone voted on legislation, they read the legislation to know what they were voting on. I would hope,
I'm Kiana
at the very least.
Fox News, local first.
Yeah. So, again, the backfire is hilarious. It's hilarious. It really is. I love to see it. I love to see it. This is what Republicans need to do. Republicans need to understand that we're not dealing with the 90s Democrats. We're not dealing with the 2000s Democrats. It's not who we're dealing with anymore. We're dealing with a full-blown authoritarian Marxist regime, okay, with the Democrat Party, and we can't be soft, right? Anything less than complete and total victory over Democrats is unacceptable. It's unacceptable, right? We have to make sure that we can maintain power and control, because if we don't, and Democrats take power and control, they're never going to give it back. Okay, let's just put it that way. So again, this is a devastating blow for Democrats.
See, but so if that's the case, then should they have representation or shouldn't they? Should there even be Democrats in this? Should we even break it down by party?
Because they don't get the seats out in Virginia. And remember what I told you guys, they have limited ammunition to gerrymander, right? Democrats talk about how, oh, we can go tit for tat, blow for blow. You really can't, because they've already gerrymandered their states to the max for the most part, right? Any type of gerrymandering they do moving forward, they're really going to be pulling teeth in order to do it, because, again, they've already gerrymandered the hell out of their states, right?
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you don't agree, when you're in conflict, is you can't trust that the other person isn't going to try to one-up you. More than likely they are.
Efforts are getting struck down because, you know, they're being desperate, right? In Virginia, the Democrats couldn't even follow the Constitution. They were so desperate to try to redistrict. Didn't happen. Got struck down. They're going to have a hard time doing it out in New York. Okay? So Republicans, on the other hand, because we have been handcuffed by unconstitutional provisions in the Voting Rights Act, right? We had to accept Democrat districts based off race that we no longer have to accept. We don't have to do that. And because we don't have to do that, this is the plausible scenario that we're looking at, right? This is what the maps really should be looking like, right? The South should look like this. This is what we should look like, okay?
I don't know.
And I'm totally fine with that. Because ultimately, what's at stake means that we need to do whatever we can do to make sure these lunatics do not take back power in this country. We have to. It is what it is. So, Democrats have themselves in a situation where a lot of this would not have happened had they not pulled that stunt out in Virginia. That stunt out in Virginia showed the country what Democrats think about when they mean democracy.
Well, no. I think it was really Hakeem Jeffries' comments about how it was maximum warfare everywhere all the time. Like, you can't win one districting election and then brag like that, especially in an administration that's as antagonistic as you claim that it is.
Right? And that is what motivated Republicans to do what they're doing now, okay? And it looks like we're going to get a bunch of seats while Democrats are not going to get the seats that they thought they were going to get, which again is going to give us an advantage going into the midterms. But as I've said before in prior videos, it's not over. We have to execute, and executing means voting, okay? Because the way that this can backfire is that some of these districts are thinning out Republican voters, okay, into, you know, deeper blue districts in order to flip them red, and that could backfire, right? The way to make sure it doesn't backfire on us is for people to get out and to vote. You have to vote. We have a prime opportunity to keep the House, to keep the Senate, right? To continue the progress that we've made, because we've made progress, okay? We have a prime opportunity to not take 2 steps back if we get out and vote. That's what it comes down to. So, this is a major loss, a major blow for Democrats.
We'll see, but no, because if Democrats think that it's inappropriate or it's illegal, then they can challenge it in court. And those maps could potentially be scrapped.
They should have stopped at California. Had they stopped at California, it is likely that this would not have happened, right? But because they got greedy, okay, they got slaughtered. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Democrats became hogs, and now they're getting slaughtered when it comes to this gerrymandering / redistricting arms race. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most important.
Because I wouldn't even, I mean, I don't know. You talk about California's redistricting. I feel like there was another state that said that it was doing it too. Before, I don't remember. What do I think? I think they shouldn't celebrate, because if these places have to put it to a vote and they lose the vote, then this map isn't going to look like this. This is the plausible scenario, which is really just code for this is potentially what could happen. Arguably, this is like best possible scenario. I don't know. I think we're going to have to wait and see.